Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the director. Chargers fans, well, I would say that this team is off to an unbelievably hot start to the season, especially considering their strength of schedule being so brutal at the top of the year. Cleveland, Kansas City, Washington, Vegas, and despite that, the Chargers are 4-1 and the top team in the entire AFC conference. Ooh, it's a good time to be a Chargers fan. However, we've taken our share of licks along the way, have we not? We've got a lot of injuries. Brian Bulaga, Justin Jones, Kenneth Murray, and recently Ode Ibushi going down to injury. Now, considering the Chargers' record at the time and the kind of momentum they've got right now, I think it's time we consider adding some reinforcements. By that, I mean free agents, trades, whatever we got to do to address these problems and have a really strong playoff push. That's what I'm talking about right now. So why now? Why should the Chargers consider adding some pieces right now? Well, the trade deadline is approaching on November 2nd. It's coming up very soon. And the Chargers, like I said, have emerged as a playoff team and possible Super Bowl hopeful. But some of these issues the Chargers will be facing down the road without extra help due to these injuries could become crippling. It's time to go big, or at least address the concerns immediately so we're not caught with our pants down a little bit later down the road. Adding pieces now will also help players become better acclimated to the squad before facing the best teams in the league during the playoffs. And the Chargers have the cap space to address these positions, around $13 million. So they can afford to add some big names if need be. Now, this list will be compiled both of free agents and potential trades. So the question for you guys in the comment section below, what position do you think the Chargers should address the most, or at least put the most resources into addressing right now? And which players do you hope the Chargers sign or trade for the most? Let me know in the comment section below. Well, guys, before we do get started, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. The top 5 players. Lights, camera, action. The top 5 players the Chargers could add to make a big playoff push, or at least the top 5 players on my radar personally. Again, let me know in the comment section who you guys will be targeting. Now, at number 5, we're going to go from 5 to 1 as far as how important it is to address these positions. Let's start at number 5 with Aldrick Rosas, only 26 years old. And I'm not just saying Aldrick Rosas, I'm saying anybody really at the kicker position, because the Chargers have displayed behavior that would indicate they have very little faith in their current kicker, Tristan Vizcaino. Going as far to risk 2-point conversions, going for the touchdown rather than 3-point, 4th and long or whatever, rather than missing that crucial extra point or field goal. And I don't think the Chargers will last long in the playoffs if they cannot feel confident in even the closest field goal or extra point opportunities. Now, Rosas, only 26 years old, seems to be the best available kicker I've been able to find, at least. And he's currently working out with the New York Giants, one of his former teams at the moment. Now, unfortunately, because I know I'm going to see comments all right away concerning Aldrick Rosas, it's unfortunately very hard to find a good kicker in the NFL, as it would appear. As Rosas was recently released due to 3 straight missed field goals by New Orleans. He was signed at the top of the season and then released. Still, I think the Chargers need to start bringing in prospects right away, whether it be Aldrick Rosas or somebody else to work out alongside Tristan Vizcaino. Because I think it's really risky to shift gears at kicker at this point of the season, but is it riskier sending out someone you're avoiding utilizing in a live game? I'm not so sure. So the bottom line here is the Chargers have a big problem at kicker. probably one of the biggest problems on this team. Maybe a problem that goes overlooked quite a lot. And maybe Tristan Vizcaino figures it out and the Chargers can start becoming confident in his ability to put up points. But as of right now, the Chargers have been avoiding having to send out Vizcaino in recent games. And hopefully the Chargers can do something to address that right away. That's a big, big issue. You do not go into the playoffs without having confidence in your kicker, at least some confidence in your kicker. Some of the things we've been doing lately has been very concerning to what the Chargers think of maybe Tristan Vizcaino at the moment. So let me know if there's any other like free agent kickers that you guys can come up with. Let me know in the comments section below, because it's been him, maybe Joey Sly, a couple other names out there. The Chargers need to at least start bringing in people to work out or hopefully develop Tristan Vizcaino a little bit quicker. Now at number 4, Brandin Cooks. This one's probably a bit of a shock for some Chargers fans to see on this list. Director, we don't have bad depth at wide receiver at all. Palmer, Guyton, Hill, the guys playing behind, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, of course, but it isn't the deepest wide receiver room in the NFL by far. Now, you can't just be good to win championships. This is something I've said a lot. You need to be stupid good. Take a look at Tampa Bay's wide receiver core. Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Antonio Brown. They brought in Rob Gronkowski last season. Those guys are a powerhouse through the air, and they proved that formula to be effective in their Super Bowl victory last season. And I think it goes beyond that with Brandin Cooks. The Chargers, specifically what Brandin Cooks would bring to this team, the Chargers, they would be wise to invest in one of Justin Herbert's best traits, the deep ball. The deep ball. Justin Herbert's one of the best in the NFL when it comes to utilizing a big arm. The accuracy, the big playability is unbelievable in our franchise quarterback. And right now, Jalen Guyton's the only wide receiver on the roster that can provide the speed to truly stretch out a defense. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen also really good. I think speed may be overrated in some aspects of the game, but not when you got a quarterback like Justin Herbert. And Brandin Cooks is actually at a great age to pick up right now, only 28 years old. You can sign him for a couple of seasons. I do think he has a few years left on his contract with Houston. It would be a great opportunity to bring him into a scheme fit for Brandin Cooks. And not only that, but really throw down, your chips on Justin Herbert and what he brings to the game. Now, Brandin Cooks specifically, he's a great football player. Bouncing from team to team throughout his career, he offers big play ability and has been performing even at a high level with the quarterback-less Houston Texans. That team has been in shambles, and despite that, Brandin Cooks has been performing. Now, Cooks offers elite speed. We know that. But he also offers underrated route running. He's a very complete football player, and one that I think a lot of people overlook for whatever reason. Maybe it's because he's been on so many teams. Maybe it's because of one thing or the other. I don't know. He's a great football player that offers what the Chargers are likely looking for right now. And what's even better is that Cooks, we don't even know his full potential in the right scheme fit. He's never played with a strong arm quarterback. Brady and Breeze in his time, they're among the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, but their deep ball is nowhere near the level of Justin Herbert. So the potential there is also very exciting. We also have to remember that the Chargers lost Tyron Johnson this offseason, an unfortunate cut from the team. So the Chargers really have been looking maybe for a replacement. I'm not quite sure why they released Tyron Johnson for whatever reason, but at the same time, that deep ball playability hasn't been as effective this season, and maybe Tyron Johnson's absence is a part of that. Now, a fast wide receiver in the NFL offers much more than just big play ability. Stretching the field opens up a lot of opportunities against the defense. If you add a player like Cooks to the roster, he would demand immediate respect from any defense. And that really does change and shape and benefit you when you're an offensive coordinator like Joe Lombardi, who also should be familiar with Brandin Cooks. There's another connection right there. Now, the likelihood of the Texans trading away Brandin Cooks at this point of the season, I would say, is pretty high. The Texans are known to unload their best players at a deep discount, especially if they got a record like what they do right now. So I'd guess maybe a 5th to 6th round pick in order to acquire Brandin Cooks, and of course you do absorb his contract. But that's one that I'm definitely willing to do with the Brandin Cooks because of what he would bring to this team specifically and what he would be able to add to the resume of a Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert and Brandin Cooks feel like they belong together, and that's something that I hope the Chargers are considering when trying to add some pieces for a playoff push. Now at number 3, The number 3. This is a big one. This is one that I'm not quite sure on yet because there are a lot of unknowns with this player. Let's talk about David DeCastro, 31 years old. Now, if you guys are familiar with David DeCastro and his story last season, he did suffer an ankle injury early last year, and he even considered retirement at one point since being cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, you take a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers last season versus this season, it's completely different when it comes to their offensive line play. They have become a lot worse, and I'm thinking their record is beginning to reflect that. Players like David DeCastro do not grow on trees. He's a very, very, very good player. Before his injury, he was considered one of the best in the entire league. And like I said before, the Chargers just recently lost Ode Abushi to an ACL tear, and he's going to be out for the rest of the season. The Chargers, at this point, are risking a shaky foundation at offensive line with 2 starters now gone, Brian Bulaga and Ode Abushi. And they need to find some way to address that. Now, David DeCastro additionally is familiar with left guard Matt Filer, who also came from the Pittsburgh Steelers last season, and he's been doing very, very well with the Chargers. And this would offer immediate chemistry with players on our O-line. Help him get up to speed a little bit quicker if he is signed by the Chargers. David DeCastro, let's not get things mixed up either. Ode Abushi has been a very, very good football player this season, but DeCastro would be better. He's very efficient in both the run and the pass as far as blocking is concerned. If he is healthy, I think David DeCastro is worth the risk for the Chargers, who need immediate help at the offensive line. They looked really, really good to start the season. A lot of high hopes for this Chargers offensive line, and we still have an immense upgrade from last season. With Rashawn Slater, Corey Linsley, and Matt Filer, that left side of the line looks really good. The right side, now missing Ode Abushi and Brian Bulaga, needs a lot more help. So David DeCastro, again, not quite 100% sure on his situation. Again, it's been a long time since his injury. It sounded like he wanted to come back and play football at one point and that he is recovering at a good pace, but at the same time, it's kind of an unknown. If the Chargers were to sign him, I would feel confident that he has overcome those injury concerns, but till then, it is an unknown. But still, at number 3, it's a very important position for the Chargers to address, and that's why he's this high on the list. Now at number 2. Big shocker. We're going to talk about another offensive lineman, okay? The offensive line, one of the biggest pieces of any team, very underrated, and the Chargers are starting to see signs of that this season with an explosive offense because of an improved offensive line. We want to keep that going. Mitchell Schwartz, that you're seeing here on the screen, 32 years old, very, very good football player. However, you guys know, again, just like David DeCastro, suffered a back injury in October of last year. 1 month ago, he reported that he was almost back to 100%, that he was in the final stages of recovery, which is a really good sign. A lot of people thought maybe he wasn't going to play for this season. That could still be the case. We need to understand more about his injury and get updates on that before we say, hey, we should throw all our money down on Mitchell Schwartz. Either way, the danger of a re-injury is unknown, but it's definitely worth the risk, I would say. If he's showing signs that he can play and there's like, I don't know, is he going to stay on the field? I think at this point for the Chargers, it would definitely be worth it. Okay? That being said, again, the Chargers need help on offensive line after losing Brian Bulaga. Storm Norton has become the weakest link on this team or on this offensive line. Even though he hasn't been performing the worst, it's not something you want to see from a playoff caliber team. Okay? Brian Bulaga, by the way, if you guys didn't know, just had surgery a few days ago and he remains on IR. Now, the Chargers are only 5 weeks into the season. At this point, a playoff push is very likely, like we've been saying this entire video, but they need a right tackle to compete in the postseason. It's going to be very, very difficult to go into the postseason without a reliable right tackle. And Schwartz is one of the best right tackles in the league, even after this injury. I think before this injury, he really didn't have that many problems with injury at all. Now, I'm kind of shocked that he still remains unsigned as of right now, because really, what he's done in the past has been unbelievable. Chargers fans should know this. We faced him 2 times a year for a very long time. Take a look at this photo of him absolutely manhandling J.J. Watt. That's the kind of player he is. One of the best pass blockers in the world that operates very, very well with a quarterback like Justin Herbert. The reason I say that is because Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, starting to show a lot of very similar traits, right? Their big playability, maneuverability, being able to buy time, with their mobility. Mitchell Schwartz just seems like the perfect fit on the right side of the line to complement a Justin Herbert. He's really familiar with that kind of quarterback. And again, that's just going beyond what he brings to the field as a player. he would actually offer as well a huge upgrade over a player like Brian Bulaga, even if Bulaga was healthy at this point of the season. That's how good Mitchell Schwartz is. The only issue I'm saying with Schwartz right now is that he would be pricey and we're unsure about his injury risk. But at this point, I think it's better to pay up than risk the health of your franchise quarterback, specifically and especially in the phase that the Chargers are in right now as playoff contenders and Super Bowl hopefuls. We want to keep that going, but you need a good offensive line to keep that party rocking, okay? Now, finally, can you guys guess my number one player on this list? The number one player I think the Chargers should go after. There have been reports of rumors that the Chargers are actually looking into this player. Let's talk about Akeem Hicks, 31 years old. If you guys aren't familiar, he's a defensive lineman. And it sounds like Staley wants him. Staley, who coached him in Chicago, loves Akeem Hicks. Akeem Hicks would be a great addition to this team, and there have been reports that Staley's been looking into it. They're trying to maybe make a trade happen between us and Chicago. This has been the most likely rumor that we've heard so far concerning specific players coming to the Bolts via trade. And the Chargers at this point, if you guys know, need major help from a player like him. The Chargers have allowed 157 yards per game on the ground. That's the most in the NFL. If the Chargers have one big weakness on defense, it's against the run. So at this point, I think the Chargers really do need a beefy 320-pound interior lineman to help out in that respect. Now, Linval and Hicks. Imagine those two, because Linval Joseph, a great signing. I remember when we signed him a couple years ago, I was like, this is one of my favorite signings in a while. These two guys together would be a huge upgrade for the Chargers' run defense. And it's just such a big issue, guys. If this goes unaddressed, I feel like teams are going to exploit this hole on defense in the playoffs, and that might very well be the thing that knocks us out. I really don't want to see that, and I really hope the Chargers are able to address that. We've got some pretty good depth, I'm not going to lie. Covington, Merrill, Fayoko, these guys, maybe even the practice squad that can come up, they're pretty good. But they're not at the same level as an Akeem Hicks, and that's where the Chargers really need a lot of help, because honestly, the players that we have right now aren't bad, but still, given that, the Chargers are still struggling versus the run. They need a guy like Akeem Hicks. Now, issues with signing Akeem Hicks. There are some concerns, not as far as his playability, but just his situation. His price is pretty high. The Chargers currently have $13 million in cap space. That's pretty good at this point of the season. But Akeem's contract, if we were just to straight up trade for him right now, would soak up a whopping $10 million. That's too much. That's a lot. I feel like if the Chargers are going to make this happen, they would need to agree on a restructure with Akeem Hicks before taking him in. Or the Bears could absorb a portion of his contract, which would acquire, dead cap for them. But if they're ready to move on from him, it might be necessary in order for them to move Akeem Hicks. And keep in mind, the additional incentive for the Bears is that they would likely get, draft capital for a player that's over 30 years old. That's a lot more valuable than if you're going to pick up a player under 30, if that makes sense, okay? So they get the added benefit of the draft capital and moving some money off their books. If they're able to absorb maybe, $4 or $5 million of his contract, I think it's very worth it for the Chargers to pursue this. I'd like to see something closer to like $6 to $8 million or less if the Chargers are able to bring him on the squad. Another issue that we do have is he only has 1 year left on his contract. Okay, if he underperforms or wants too much money in 2022, he could walk. But the Chargers, I think, you want to be able to look into the future and say, okay, we're future-proofing this. We want a good plan going in past this season. But right now, I think short-sightedness isn't a bad idea because of where the Chargers are and their ability to make a Super Bowl immediately. If it's a one-year rental, it might be worth it. I don't know. An extension would likely only be for a few seasons anyway because of his age. Now, another issue is that he's not 100% healthy. This has kind of been a trend with the top three players in here, but their talent kind of supersedes that. Now, he went down with a groin injury versus Detroit a couple of weeks back. He did not play versus the Vegas Raiders. But my guess is that, a groin injury can take, between like 3 and 6 weeks to heal. I'm thinking he could return somewhere around week 7. And the Chargers' bye week is week 7. So that'll give him a good chance to play in week 8 versus New England. And at that point, you're like halfway through the season. That's where you're going to want Akeem Hicks on your roster, learning and getting acclimated to the scheme and getting, in playoff shape before the Chargers really need to lean on him. Till then, he would obviously add a lot of help to the Chargers' run defense, but it's something to definitely consider. Now, considering the Chargers' remaining opponents in their season, this is not a bad move at all to bring in Akeem Hicks, even given all of those concerns. We're going to be facing Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, and among others. Teams that have ran all over us, like the New England Patriots last year. You guys remember that. If they make it into the playoffs as well, we would very likely face another team with a really good running attack. What if we go up against Cleveland again? We cannot allow over 200 yards on the ground. I don't know if we would make it through that twice. They need help. I think they do need help, and I think by this point everybody kind of knows that. So is he worth the risk of all these things, the contract, maybe coming back from injury? I think absolutely. I think a line featuring Hicks and Linval and Bosa and Nwosu would be a drastic improvement for the Chargers versus the run. So Akeem Hicks is definitely a guy that I think the Chargers should be considering, and that's why he's number 1 on this list. That's one of the biggest problems this team has been having this season, and Akeem Hicks would certainly be a move in the right direction to address that. So what will likely happen? I know Chargers fans are like, Director, all this is super hopeful. Maybe it is, but at the same time, it is a very different team, a very different situation than we've seen for the Chargers in a very long time. What will likely happen? Well, I think the Chargers should sign at least one big name due to their status in Super Bowl hopefuls, as Super Bowl hopefuls in 2021. And I see Hicks at this point being the most likely candidate pending a contract restructure because of his familiarity with Brandon Staley and what he offers to the team that we need so desperately. Now, what will also likely happen, which has kind of started to begin already, they'll likely find a lesser-known prospect to fill holes that show upside. These players that, they could be good, and we need them right now. But the biggest question I'm going to ask you guys is that can they afford the time this season to groom an upside prospect? And what if it doesn't work out? What if they don't make the cut? What if they don't add any value to the team because we're hoping that they would show some sort of improvement throughout the season? It could be kind of costly in this window of opportunity for the Chargers to maybe hopefully make a Super Bowl. How crazy would that be? Super Bowl in LA, maybe versus the Rams. An LA Super Bowl. How crazy would that be? Well, in the comment section, let me know again which one of these guys you guys hope that we add the most, and maybe some guys that I didn't add on this list as well. I think one thing is for certain, though. The Chargers have a very rare opportunity right now, and I think the money that we've saved over the offseason, maybe in preparation for something like this, was very wise. Given the Chargers' 4-1 start, I think it's very wise to go after some names in order to address these problems now. Because again, it's going to take players a little while to get acclimated to the Chargers scheme and the way they run the team. We need them to be in football shape. We need them to be in playoff shape, come January. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you did enjoy this video, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty.